So do you think that really makes any lick of sense in this epoch of time where we have digitization? How can actually documents go missing? We just want to hear from our panelists as well, because this particular case had drawn a lot of interest. And now we understand also lawyer Apollo Mboya has, agreed to settle the matter out of court. Then we have these files also gone missing as well. Allow me to introduce to you this morning. Earlier, if you joined us at the top of the hour, we introduced to you Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, who's the Senator of Kericho. We do have with us right now, also in studio, Dr. Eseli Simiu, who is the General Secretary of Ford Kenya and Member of Parliament from Tongaren. We do have as well the Deputy Leader of Ford Kenya as well, Boni Khalwale. And also we do have Jacob Midu, who's a former Member of Parliament of GEM. And also we have Dr. Otende Amolo with us this morning, who is a Member of Parliament from Rarieda. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Right, let's just jump into it. First of all, do you believe the question that we are raising, that in this epoch of time where we have digitization, how can we have files missing? And when we have very, very, high-profile cases like what we had with, or we have with the Kenya Power. Remember also on this occasion and on this forum, we've also pointed and questioned why also files of Anglo leasing were missing, because I think the Asset Recovery Agency also had raised queries about files which were missing as well. So is this deliberate? And should we be talking about files missing right now? Are we talking of hard copies? Where is the digitization of these copies as well? Let's just begin from there. Dr. Eseli.
Yeah, I think it gives you a sense of deja vu. Many years ago, you used to get this, to hear of files missing from the registry, judgments delayed. I think the judiciary is on notice. I think Chief Justice Maraga has to really dig deep into this, because as you said yourself, with digitization, really they can't say that documents are missing, especially for such a high-profile matter. And they should not allow this to come back in, especially when there's a big war against corruption. If they allow that these missing files and missing documents to creep back, then you can rest assured that all the anti-corruption cases will not succeed. Things will just miss, and eventually the judges will also go missing to deliver the judgment. So I think they better, this one Kenyans can't buy it.
All right.
The judiciary should know that Kenyans will not buy this.
Aaron Cheruiyot, your thoughts on this? Files missing. Do you buy this particular case that is being advanced, that the files are missing?
Of course you can't. This is rather ridiculous that in a case of this magnitude that generated so much interest in it, such a excuse can be given for not proceeding with the prosecution. I don't know, it points to negligence, one, on the part of Kenya Power, because I want to believe there are employees who are charged with the duty. An institution of this magnitude has a records management unit, and therefore the department that was charged with providing this documentation should be held accountable. But second and most importantly also, it calls into question the kind of investigation then that the DPP is running. How can you proceed to court without having in your custody all what you consider to be necessary to nail the culprits that you're bringing before a court of law? I thought in my thinking, and maybe I could be wrong on this, but I imagine that most likely I'm right, by the time you're taking such high-profile witnesses, people who've been CEOs and board members of such an institution,
yes,
you have first sealed together all the loopholes, ensure that you have all your paperwork safely in your custody as DPP before then proceeding to take them to court. Therefore, when you come back, it lends credence to the kind of discussion that has been there of late, that some of the work that the DPP is doing is all show and no substance in it. If you can come back and say, now I am lacking crucial evidence, then people will begin to question, were you on a fishing expedition in the first place? What is it that you relied on?
Right.
Those are some of the questions that come to mind. Obviously, it's rather unfortunate. I hope this gets resolved soonest, because any records anyway in any organization must keep a backup. If I want to believe even all my colleagues in their offices, for all the documents that they have a way of keeping a backup of the data they have.
Yes.
Therefore, the backup to this data must be availed, and availed soon.
So they're taking Kenyans for a ride on this.
I think
right?
so.
Okay, but let's see the development also on the front page of the Business Daily. Also, lawyer Apollo Mboya accepting to actually settle this matter out of court. If we may just pick the Business Daily, which is behind me. It's a sidebar story today. Kenya Power customers get a month to file billing complaints, and they say electricity consumers have 1 month to file with Kenya Power any complaints arising from billing errors incurred since the beginning of the year. Aggrieved customers will be spared disconnection during the period as part of an out-of-court settlement that the electricity distributor reached with the Nairobi lawyer Apollo Mboya. Sounds to me like this is just a slap on the wrist. Jacob Midio.
Well, let me begin by Apollo Mboya. I think that's how it works, Diba. I mean, at least he has negotiated for the consumers. If you feel you are owed, you are given 30 days to go and file. I mean, that, in my understanding, allows them to go back to court in 30 days if something is amiss. But the DPP cannot tell Kenyans through a tweet that he wants to assume everybody is guilty and everybody must prove themselves innocent. That is very wrong. I think everybody is assumed innocent until proven guilty. It is his, the onus is on him to prove these people guilty. However, I would advise the accused persons to invest their energies on proving themselves innocent. Because what is happening it is embarrassing. Number one, the DPP seems to be going to court to look for evidence, yes. Expedition fishing, which I think is very embarrassing because everybody is supporting him to fight corruption. Debal, I was once told by a sitting governor that he cannot be prosecuted because no files will be found at anti-corruption. That was about 4 years ago. And surely, his county is one of the most corrupt, but nobody goes after him. So this issue about files disappearing is not a new thing. But how I wish it should not extend to the embarrassing event in the DPP's office. I hope he sorts it out. And I think he is properly resourced. I think the state is supporting him. I think the public is supporting him. I think he can do better than that.
All right. Bwana Khalwale?
I think this is a confirmation of what most of us fear, that in the fight against corruption, the judiciary has become a bottleneck. If the judiciary was committed to fighting corruption, the registrar would not have allowed what has just been reported to us to happen. And in fact, Justice David Maraga would today be giving priority to anti-corruption cases just in the same manner that election petitions are given a priority. So if it is possible for election petitions to be given priority because they are deemed to be important, then we can also give priority to such cases concerning corruption. I would like to commend something about Apollo Mboya. Apollo Mboya has, I know him in my private life. He is a great patriot, and the work he has done in respect of this should not in any way be misconstrued to mean that he has been compromised. Even if he stops where he has stopped, what Apollo Mboya has achieved is so much to give members of the public an opportunity at least to be heard.
Yes.
You know, we were grappling with a situation whereby once Kenya Power visits you with a bill, you either pay or they disconnect.
Yeah. Yes.
So he's given us a very big opportunity for which we should thank him. Finally, the DPP. Justice Maraga should not frustrate the good work of the DPP. The DPP is very aggressive and we support him. We are seeing a lot of the big man syndrome which is beginning to frustrate the DPP. I heard somewhere on Grapevine, I didn't hear it authoritatively. I hope my brother Jakoyo and Amolo Tiende, because they are sons of Siaya, they could clarify this matter. I heard the African big man syndrome emanate from Siaya, where Governor Asanga stated that he was above law because of Raila. And then what can the DPP do? This is the problem. The country must support the DPP. And I don't know how we can handle people like Rasanga, if it is true what I have heard. And maybe at that stage, let me leave it there for Amodo Tiende. And
it seems Jakoyo has a stitch of evidence on that. but no, let's hear from Otinda Molo on this, son of Siaya.
Good morning, Kenya. I'm seated on a very unfamiliar seat. I think today NTV has decided to put the handshake team on one side and the team Tanga Tanga on the other. What is this? But first of all, yes, I am very careful. First of all, yes. Let us start by, it's been a very interesting week of mixed feelings. It's been a sad week where you saw the events beyond this country, what happened to Jamal Khashoggi.
Yes.
If that can happen to journalists at this time, it is something that should be condemned, and it should invite some very stern action. Not the sort of protectionism that we are seeing from some states.
Yes.
Locally, it's also a sad day. You saw what happened, the demise of MS Vora and 4 of his family members. This is sad because this is a family that many Kenyans may not know.
Yes.
The Vora family is actually the family that has invested in the Sarova hotels, for example, locally.
Yes.
And they started with Ambassador Hotel, moving up. This is the family which last year lost J.S. Vora through a road accident.
Yes.
This is the family which a few years back lost Sani Vora through an accident in Ethiopia.
Yes.
This is the family of the great lawyer and philanthropist, V.S. Vora, who has done quite a lot in this country. Now, there are we've lost many lives on the road.
Yes.
And so even as we condole with the Vora family, we remind ourselves on the need to take all the measures that we need to take to ensure that road transport and other forms of transport are actually safe in this country. But it's also been an interesting week when Raila Amolo Odinga was confirmed as the High Representative of, the African continent of infrastructure and related matters. So it's been a mixed week, and we will come back to that. Let me come to your question. Your question relates to the prosecution issue in terms of the order made by the court. Let us not mix issues. There is absolutely no blame for the judiciary. It is not the judiciary file that was missing. No. So let's not bring in Maraga, let's not bring in the judiciary. That is not so. What is alleged to have happened is that the prosecution says that a crucial report, which it was to rely on, a report by the ERC, was missing. Now, that is not a report that was in the custody of the court. That was a report which was supposed to be in the custody of the prosecution. And so on this, Senator Cheruiyot has stumbled on the truth. It is to be assumed, and so I agree with him, in any proper prosecution, the documents you have investigated and which you want to rely on should be in your custody. So it should not be a question of saying that the people you are seeking to prosecute appear to have caused some document to disappear, unless you explain how it disappeared from your own custody. That is how it works. I've explained here before that prosecution is a science. Prosecution is not just the art of, tweeting and sending things on social media and sensationalization. When the rubber meets the road, prosecution is a hard-nosed science where you must prove beyond reasonable doubt everything else that you've said. Now, I'm afraid, and on this I agree with Senator Cheruiyot, that some of the prosecutions, we've tended to play them to the media and to the gallery lately, rather than focus on hard evidence. If we must win the war on corruption, it must not just be on playing to the media or the gallery. It must be on hard evidence. So on this one, The question that I ask myself is, this is a report. It was supposed to be in the custody of the prosecution. If it is not, then the secondary question is that a report is never produced in one copy. Any report is always in several copies.
Yes.
And it was produced by the ERC. Then the most natural thing that would happen is to summon the ERC to produce the report if the one that they had in their custody is not there. The third issue that has always worried me is the tweet that you just shared from the DPP.
Yes.
When a matter is in court, even before it goes to court, one expects that it will be prosecuted, it will be determined on merit in court. When the DPP tweets and says, this is the kind of reason why I had to post bail, it is to imply and cast aspersions on the court that maybe it is because the accused were released on bail that now they've caused this kind of report to disappear. That is unfair, both to the court and to the accused. I think the DPP and all justice agencies must prosecute their cases right in court. Now, we have also seen another worrying trend. I think it's in the case of Kidero's son, that the court ordered, which the Constitution requires, that the investigating officer supplies the evidence to the defense lawyers, and apparently the investigating officer refused, and now a warrant of arrest has been issued. I think I saw that in on the first page of on the Star. First page, warrant issued against cop in Kidero's son, right at the end there. Yeah. That is again something that should not happen. The Constitution requires that cases be investigated thoroughly. The same Constitution requires that the evidence you have, you must supply the defense, so that then it is tested in court. And so when you are guilty guilty as by law provided.
Thank you.
So lastly, could
I
just finish?
Yeah, let him finish, then you love your time.
Let us also not make this sound like it's the same case with Mboya's. Mboya's case is completely different. Apollo Mboya's case was a civil case on the question of tariffs. This is a criminal case. Now, Apollo Mboya went to court as any good Kenyan is entitled on the question of tariffs. No one instructed him, no one paid him, no one asked him. Therefore, if he chooses to settle it in any way, no one can blame him. Anyone who wanted to be heard had the opportunity to go to court and say, join me, let me join, and then they would be heard.
You say that this is a hard-nosed, of course, science, that is a prosecution. And if it's truly a hard-nosed science, why will files go missing? Well, I asked from the beginning that in this dispensation, an epoch of time where we have digitization, we shouldn't be talking about files missing.
Let me clarify that. No file has gone missing. The issue is that a report they wanted to rely on has gone missing. It's not files. But the important thing here is this.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Let me make the point here.
For me, the report...
Let me make the point.
Please.
In court, if you have this as a document, it is what we call primary evidence. You must produce the primary evidence in court. If you copied it electronically, that is not primary evidence. But so what you must do is, if the one you had disappears, and this is a report, get another copy of the report, the original copy. That is all you need to do. And I'm sure that should not be difficult.
So the hard copy now is a primary evidence?
Yes.
So when you talk about digitization of the judiciary, what do we mean when we have these soft copies and hard copies? You want to tell me also the digitization of those particular files, that will not be a primary evidence?
You see,
I don't understand.
Let me explain only one thing to you. If today somebody stole you a check leaf and signed, yes, as if it was you, and they went and cashed it, when they are being prosecuted, the best evidence the court must rely on is that check that is signed by them. If it disappears and somebody took, say, a picture, and then you want to show that picture on your phone to court, that is not the ideal evidence, because it could have been adjusted. That's the distinction here.
All right, thank you.
There's something disturbing me. I don't know if my brother Amolo knows something that Kenyans don't know about this disappearance. You appear to be defensive, and you want to give the impression that the DPP is to blame. Yes, it is true. Prosecution must rely on evidence. But we know of many cases where the DPP is begging to be allowed to proceed so that he can demonstrate that he has the evidence. But you lawyers, I'm not saying you in particular, you lawyers have now gone to the High Court to seek for interpretation and what have you, so that the cases don't proceed. Why blame the DPP? Give him an opportunity to demonstrate that he has either a good case or a bad case instead of blocking him. One of the cases, I am on the side of the Deputy Justice, Chief Justice, but I know that is one of the cases where the DPP wants to proceed, but you lawyers have blocked him.
All right. Yeah, just a moment. Let's hear from Mr. Eli, then we hear. All right. Could we? Yeah.
First, I want to make
just a moment.
I want to make an apology if I appear to castigate the judiciary instead of the DPP's office. And the DPP's office is supposed to be independent. But what the DPP is failing to realize, and I've said this on this show several times, that Kenya is one big criminal enterprise. And this criminal enterprise puts their people in various strategic places, in the judiciary, in the DPP, and the investigative arms like the DCI. They have this enterprise has people all over. So the DPP should be careful that if he's going to prosecute any of these high level corruption matters, he should be aware of this gang that surrounds everywhere that involves investigations and prosecution. So in this case, I think the DPP's office is just being a victim of this criminal enterprise that actually ultimately runs Kenya. Yeah.
All right. Aaron Chiriot, before we take a short break.
Yes, I want to comment something on this Apollo Boya KPLC out of court settlement. And this is in regard to the flag that has been thrown at him, especially by our so-called keyboard warriors,
yes,
where they believe that, first of all, due to their little or no understanding of how the law operates, they think that when you say you have sorted a matter out of court, it can only be implied to mean that you have been compromised. You know, there is this entitlement attitude that many of these keyboard warriors have, that there is a special group of Kenyans that have been set out to go out and achieve certain things for them, and therefore they can just sit at home and tweet and either agree or disagree with them. I see this with Apollo. I said it here last week that I have seen the same being done at my good friend Mohammed Ali or Jicho Pevu, where people all over you just saying that, oh, this is not what you expected for you. I mean, there is no special group of Kenyans that were set out from the onset that you go out and fight for other Kenyans. If you feel anybody is not living up to the task that you feel should be done to Kenyans, go ahead and occupy that space. There's nothing that bars you. And therefore, Apollo should be let to enjoy his shine for whatever it is.
Right. Right, we have that editorial cartoon on the screen right now. When the KPLC corruption case prosecution files go missing, we do have Nurdin Haji actually catching the, you know, the boot rather than the ball. Right?
The boot.
Okay, yeah, before you take a short break, I think Jakoyo, unless you want to weigh in on that particular editorial cartoon.
No, but I think it's wrong to talk about prosecution files, because they are very clear. In fact, in the papers, it's also covered that there are officials at ERC who were held yesterday, somewhere in the papers. In fact, I was just trying to look for it. So I think it's good to put the facts correct.
Yes.
And for me, the only thing I disagree with the DPP about
is
when he says he opposes the release of suspects, because I think that is unconstitutional. You know,
because he has bugbears and fears about these files going missing.
But
right?
by the time you are arresting people,
yes,
you have your files ready. I mean, that to me sounds like somebody without a legal mind talking. Yeah. You know, you just can't keep people in prison. You know, you must think that if you arrest 60 people,
you have concrete evidence.
You have concrete evidence,
yes,
because some of them may be innocent. So you operate from from defending their rights also. Well, if you do that, then we will have a proper justice system going forward. Yeah.
Right. Finally, on this, anyone before we wind up, Tina Molo, before we actually take a short break, I think I interrupted you and you're talking about was it Rasanga and the Siaya, and you said you had a stitch of evidence. I think that was being raised by Boni Khalwale. Hope you've not lost your track of thought.
That was me.
It was
me who said that.
Yes.
But the governor of Siaya was seen on camera dancing in Migori and saying he went to Canada. And when he came back, he only made one phone call to the former prime minister. And he said, let them arrest me. You know, and nobody contradicted him. I don't know if Otiende was in that rally, but it was an ODM rally campaigning for Ayako. And I think for some of us who wake up every week to come and talk on behalf of Kenyans, I think it's wrong to see a human being do that, because I've just been informed as I was coming here that on a local FM station, he was even trying to contradict us for trying to say such things about him. You know, nobody in this country is above the law, including Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So who is the guy? I was the main complainant in that case. The case he says cannot arrest him, where he built a wooden house for 22 million shillings, but the DPP says he paid himself 126 million. It is in that Gazette notice. So he cannot say that, and he cannot use the good name of my brother to protect himself, because the law will always catch up with him. The law, he must be prosecuted. How do you build a wooden house and you say you have paid somebody who is not even a local 22 million shillings? Then the DPP, in his investigation, find that you paid yourself 126 million. Well, that is open theft. You know, even if you were my brother, I would disown you for that.
Maybe it was a mahogany, of course, sort of a timber and teak as well.